So name and age.
Jim McCord, I 44 years old.
Okay.
I started in the logging industry probably, I was about 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
I started cutting for a friend of mine, his name was Jeff Turner. He had a little Jippo outfit. I started cutting for him, worked for him for about 10 years. From there, I tramped around, cut for multiple other people, and then I worked for Castle and Coleman for 9 years, cutting right away.
Yeah.
And from there, I worked for Pacific Timber for 5 years. And from there, here I am today.
Oh, too cool.
And that's all I've really done. I've worked tower sides and mostly flat ground for me, other than the right-of-ways. It cut lots of in-haul units and stuff.
Okay.
I've always been pretty much just a cutter.
Pretty cool, man. So, what would you say your scariest experience has been?
Scariest experience. Had a few pretty close calls. I've had my saw ripped out of my hand and flung down over the bank, and I had a widowmaker come down and knock my hard hat off that I didn't even know it was there. It come down and got my hard hat and landed next to my boot.
Wow.
It would have definitely killed me. I don't know how I escaped that one. And then another really scary time, I was cutting a big red snag, old growth snag, and I was putting my undercut in it still, and I didn't even get the bottom part of my undercut cut out. Something wasn't right, and it started coming down, and I took off, and all it was, it looked like a big anthill. My saw was still vibrating under there, and the whole thing, it was only about 50 feet tall, but it just big crumble and mess, and it was just vibrating. It never squished the saw, and I got out of there. And I was by myself then, so that was really scary.
Wow, that's unreal. How about biggest tree you cut down, either width and or height?
The biggest, 7'6", and it was a red old growth snag, and it was on Wildcat Pass. It was 7'6" across the stump. It's the first time I stood on a springboard too.
Wow. Where's Wildcat Pass?
It's up between the Bulb Farm Road and McClary. You get up on the top and you're looking down on the little town of McClary.
Okay, yeah.
Right up at the top. Wow. There were several snags. I cut the right of way, and I was actually scared of the snags. I'd never dealt with anything that big before. So I told Mike Coleman, I said, I'm scared. I don't want to cut them. So he said, I'm going to get a 42-inch bar. I'll meet you at the shop. I cut a short spur for him. I went back to the shop that morning, took my camcorder. I was all geared up to video, and we hiked out there. The snags, we got out there, and once we got there, I got my camera all ready, and he says, I'll put that thing away. Grab that saw, you're cutting them. So he made me a springboard. It was a pretty neat deal. First time I ever stood on a springboard, he made me a springboard out of a little hemlock tree and got me all lined up. And the guy that was with us, he had the camcorder and had the TV window on it. He didn't know to open the window on it, so we didn't get no videos of it. But everything went well. It was pretty neat, but it was a pretty neat experience, especially being with Mike. He's gone now, so.
Okay, how long ago did he pass?
5 years ago.
Okay, and
6 years ago.
Is Castle and Coleman still going then?
Yeah, Joe's still running it.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Really good family.
How many sides do they run?
I think he's only got 2 sides now.
Okay. Has cutting been pretty consistent with you over the years, or have you had to jump and do other things to stay busy?
Pretty well just cut. I've ran around. I mean, I've went out of state for a few months at a time, but never cutting.
Yeah. Okay.
I've always pretty much just, the longest I was ever off, I had a broken leg in 2010. I was off for a year and a half between jobs.
Okay.
Healing up.
Something else too, like what would you say your best day out in the woods was? Or are they all good?
They're all pretty good. There's some, I don't like getting in the bees.
Yeah, oh yeah.
them are the bad days, the bees.
Yeah, I just talked to a couple guys off the rigging crew. They were telling me about a couple big old bead nests they were trying to stay away from.
Yeah, well, the last day I cut up there, well, they'll be getting right into that strip. 6 nests in that. 2 days I've seen 6 different nests up there.
Ooh, holy smokes, man.
Yeah, I never got stung though, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, good. Now, Jimmy, what are you using for a saw these days?
First time in my life ever. It's a 372 Husky.
Okay.
First time I ever ran one.
And how do you like it?
I actually like it. Really
Okay.
good saw. I went from running a 66 with the ground chain to a round filed, the smaller saw, and I was worried about it, but it's a new saw and it cuts really good. It's really surprisingly it cuts good.
Cool.
I didn't think I'd ever say that, but I'm pretty impressed.
Good. So now, I don't know much about cutting, but tell me, if you're out on decent ground, how many trees do you think you lay down in a day?
Usually a wood like this, I mean this is pretty broke up nasty ground here. But wood like this you're usually getting 6 hour day, you're getting 5-6 loads a day.
Okay. Cool.
That's on a good day, you know, if you're consistent.
Yeah. And a piece of advice for a young person that wants to get into cutting timber. I know I've talked to a few people over the years that have been kind of curious about breaking into it, and it's kind of difficult these days with guys wanting to bring on anybody that's kind of green and wet behind the ears, I suppose, to cut timber. But what would you say to somebody that's interested in getting into this game?
Take your time and learn your job. You know, if you got someone that's gonna show you, take the time and learn your job. One of the most valuable pieces of advice I ever got was from one of my superiors. One of the best cutters I ever seen was Bert Stevens, and he told me that. He said, "Just he said, young man, learn your job. Speed will come."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You know, don't get in a hurry for nothing. You rush something, you're gonna get hurt."
Yeah.
And to this day, I think about that whenever, you know, I try to get in a hurry or do something. I think about that little piece of advice, and I've passed it on to others. It's the best thing. Just never get in a hurry. Every time you get in a hurry, something bad happens.
Yeah, those are wise words.
This is one of my mishaps a couple years ago.
Okay. How'd that happen?
I was putting an undercut in a big cedar, and I missed my undercut a little bit, and it was on Harstein Island. There was about 1.5 feet deep of water around it, so I cut a bunch of the limbs off, and I made me a little platform to kind of stand on and keep my little toes out of the water. And I missed my undercut. It was about 4.5 foot, and I was holding on to one of the stobs like, yo, and I missed my undercut, so I was one-handed, and I was trying to get that little bit out of there, and it come close. When it come close to cut, it kicked the saw out, and when it did, I was trying to hold the weight of the saw one-handed and holding on to that stob, and little firewood rounds rolled. When I was falling down, I hit the kill switch, but my longest finger.
Oh.
Thought, boy, that was a close one.
Wow.
And that close, I mean, that quick, it was gone.
Wow. Man, that's unreal. Doggone. And Jimmy, probably biggest character you've worked with out in the woods, biggest personality.
Mike Coleman.
Was he a prankster or just an all-around good guy?
You never know where he's going to show up. Just always be joking, always just a great guy, always full of bullshit, you know, always had a story about something. Always fun. Never a dull moment when I was working with Mike.
That's cool. And now that springboard job you talked to me about sounded pretty impressive, but have you got something else that you've worked on over the years where you go that's just logged in your memory banks as being a real neat experience cutting timber? Anything you can think of?
I got to redo the right-of-ways through Camp Grisdale, and I was with the Green Diamond bosses, and Mark Schmidt, he had a map and showed me where everything was at. You know, he grew up there when he was a kid, and so he had a map and showed me where everything was at. You know, he wanted me through. It was really neat, so that was a good time. That was one of fun memories.
How much of a drive is it? That's off the Wainuchi Road, right? And how far up in the woods do you have to drive to get where the old camp used to be?
It's right off there's a gate right there and some mailboxes. It's right there.
Okay.
You know, and you go right in there, but there ain't much left there now. There's some old cement slabs and stuff.
Okay.
Marky had a map and showed me where everything was at. It was pretty neat.
Wow. When did they close Camp Grisdale down?
I think in 1980.
Okay.
Or in 85, or 80, or Govey closed in 85, so they must have closed Grisdale in 80.
Wow. Okay.
Somewhere right in there.
Wow, too much, man. Well, cool. Well, Jimmy, I'll let you get back to your trade here. Thank you for taking the time with me.
You bet, no problem.
Bye now.